Ohayou gozaimasu everyone, welcome to ohayouhobby.
This is my very first video, so I'm very excited to get started. And today we're going to be making a Pokeball Diorama. This diorama will be a gift for my good friend and fellow YouTuber Moshi, because he is a certifiable Pokemaniac. So of course the first thing you're going to need for a Pokemon diorama is the Pokemon. I got these from a few different places. The Primeape is one of the original toys from way back in the day when there was only 150 of these guys. And I got him off of eBay. I also got Groki off of eBay. He is like a pencil topper or something like that. And Monferno I actually got from a gachapon machine. I was pretty lucky. But his colors were kind of worn off or not complete, so I finished him off with some paint myself. And I'm quite proud of the tail because I mixed some of the colors and it makes a pretty cool flame effect, so pretty happy with that. Now at this point I'm sure you're wondering, what's with all the monkeys? To be honest, I don't really know if my buddy Mo is a monkey enthusiast or anything, but his favorite is Primeape, and when it comes to starters he tends to go for the monkeys, so the monkey themed diorama. The next thing you're going to need is one of these plastic Christmas ornament balls that you can probably pick up at a local craft store. However, to get one big enough for what I wanted to do, I had to order it online, but you can probably get smaller ones at the craft store quite easily. I'm now just going to trace the ball so that I can get a base onto which I can glue the entire diorama. And now that that's cut out, I'm going to look for a nice grassy hill to put at the back. So I'm looking for a nice curved shape from these foam grassy lumps to match the edge, and I think I found a good one here. So I'm just going to cut that out and get to gluing that on. Now be careful with products like this, because a lot of these little fake grass pieces are falling all over the place, so I've put down a mat to make tidying up afterwards easier, and you can keep them for later for future projects, so be sure to do that. Now a good piece of hobby advice is measure twice and cut once, and it also applies to gluing. So as you can see here, just stacking things on top of each other, it's not going to fit inside the dome, so I have to figure out another solution. So what I've decided to do is trim the edge of the base so that it sits lower in the bottom half of the ball, and that way there's more room on top of it to put the grassy hill and the Groki. Next, I'm just going to trim off the tab for the ornament, and when you do so, make sure not to break the plastic because it's more brittle than you might realize. The reason I know this is because out of all of the balls that I ordered, I only had one that was undamaged. I accidentally ordered 8, I only wanted a box of 4, and it was a good thing I did because all of them were cracked or broken. I only had one that I could work with, so be careful when ordering where they're coming from. Yeah. Now I've got some different fake grass that I'm going to use to cover the base, and just going to trim that out to the right size, as well as a section for where the hill will go. So the hill will not go directly on top of this, but kind of inside it. And of course, because I'm cutting more fake grass, I've got more little pieces to clean up, so more for the next project. Next, now that I can see the hill next to the fake grass, I can see that the foam is still visible because it's quite white, so I'm just going to paint that brown so it looks more natural and blends into the background. Now it's time for the foliage. So I've picked up a couple of fake plants from the dollar store, and I'm just going to cut them into smaller pieces so that they fit inside the dome. Now what I didn't realize was the stem of one of these uses metal wire, so cutting through is a bit difficult. Be careful when doing this yourself, make sure you have the right tools, and be safe. Unfortunately, I did not have the right tools, so I had to make do with some scissors and had to kind of bend it back and forth until it broke. So make sure you have some wire cutters if you are purchasing the type with wires inside. Now, for the bottom half, we don't want to see under the circular base that we cut out, so we're going to spray paint the inside of the bottom half of the ball, and we want to do the inside so that we still have the same kind of clear surface on the outside. I would recommend using white, but all I had was this kind of cream bone color, but I kind of like how it turned out. Reminds me a bit of a certain egg Pokemon. Next, we're just going to break out the hot glue and glue our base into place. Now, I'm just using a cheap dollar store hot glue gun, so the glue was not that hot and it dried quite quickly. So it took me a couple of times to get the grass glued down, and what I realized was the best way to do it was half and half. So I picked up one half of the grass, put the glue down, then put the grass down to glue it into place, and then I did the same thing with the other side, and that way the glue didn't get too hard that it wouldn't stick. Giving myself some more time by doing half at a time. I'm now using a Poké tool. I don't know what this is called actually, but I guess Poké tool. And I'm just using it to poke some holes into the base so that I can glue the plants inside to give them some support, because otherwise they'd just be glued on top of the grass and they would probably slump over time, which we do not want. Now I wanted to add a log to the diorama, so I'm using a small broken piece of stick. Now if you use a stick that you find from outside, I've heard that you're supposed to bake it in the oven to kill off any bacteria or germs that might be inside. But mine I got from the hobby store or the craft store, so I don't need to worry about any of that. Now, speaking of baking, no monkey diorama would be complete without a giant pile of bananas. but in this case we're using purple oven baked clay to make nana berries, which I guess is the correct fruit. At least that's what Pokemon Go has told me. So that's what we're doing. So I'm just using a bit of Vaseline on my fingers and then rolling the clay into what looks like little nulls from Reboot, and then just pinching them together at the top, and then we'll throw them in the oven to bake. Now that they're nice and hard, and we've got a whole pile of them, all that's left to do is just to paint the tops yellow, and we've got ourselves a nice bunch of nana berries. So for this diorama, I wanted to make a little narrative that's happening. So the nana berries here are a horde of the Monferno, and I wanted to use his pose as a bit of storytelling. So he's guarding the nana berries from Primeape, who wants a couple of tasty nana berries for himself. And as for Groki, he's just a curious onlooker, looking to see what's going to happen between these two much bigger monkeys. And he doesn't like what he's seeing right now, though. Ooh, okay. Tactical blurring, definitely on purpose. Don't worry, he's okay. But now that he's glued into place, that's about all for the interior of the diorama, and I gotta say it's looking pretty good, it's looking lush, and I like the story I've put together here. So we put the top half of the ball back on, and it's time for the finishing touches. For this next step, I'm using some adhesive-backed foam that I've cut into a circle and a long strip in order to make the iconic Pokeball stripe. Being adhesive-backed makes it much easier to use and stick on. I think glue would be rather messy, and I was worried I was going to mess up the sheen of the clear plastic of the Pokeball. So using this adhesive-backed foam was a lot easier, very easy to cut into shape, and very easy to apply. Although I did have to remove it and put it back on a few times just to make sure it's in the right position. But it turned out perfect. Very, very nice. I'm very happy with the results. I got very lucky because I realized that the base that came with Groki was the perfect button for the Pokeball. It's the perfect shape, and it even has a Pokeball symbol etched into it. A couple of minor modifications and some white paint and hot glue, and it was ready to go. All there is to do now is glue on the base, which is a Kraft peanut butter lid, painted black, And I'm just doing that off camera to make sure it's perfectly flat and not leaving any smudges or smears from the glue. And we are done. This is my first really big diorama project, and I'm really happy with the result. I hope you've enjoyed the process and the results as well. And thank you for watching the video. Hope to catch you in the next one. See ya!